Welcome back, Chappelle. All right, so today, really quickly, for those of you who know any of the kids in my A class, make sure they know that they're supposed to be doing this. I'm sending out a link to just to be safe, but just saying, with y'all's like rotating schedule and stuff, I'm just trying to make sure everybody stays on the same note. All right, but what we did today in class, we talked about like the averages on the quiz. How I was actually pretty impressed. Not even gonna lie to you. We talked about like the ancient Greek time periods, right? We kind of like shed some light on what we do and don't know about ancient Greece, right? So a big thing that we didn't know was where the heck it's located, right? So we did go over that, right? We talked about how ancient Greece is in actually this region of the Mediterranean area of Europe, right? Specifically located in the Balkans, right? So, looking at it right now, really quickly, one thing we need to understand. All right, so everywhere we've talked about so far is very crucial to understand one major geographic similarity between all of them, all right? So, when we were talking about Mesopotamia, Egypt, Phoenicians, Assyrians, etc., Hebrews, everybody, right? Most of them were settled on areas of good farmland, usually established by a river valley or a freshwater system network, right? So a way to actually farm capably, make it easy on yourself, survive, not die of starvation, good stuff like that, right? So cultivated agriculture kind of things, right? Now, getting into Greece, though, a little bit different, all right? So, and when I say a little bit different, and I know for a fact there's a Camden Catholic kid watching this video right now. They're like, oh, 20%, yeah, there's 20%. All right, well, a big thing you got to understand about Greece first is its geography, right? First of all, it is extremely mountainous, all right? As you can see right over here, which was a topographical map of Greece, right? So this is a map of the elevation of Greek territories, right? So as you can see all the red right here, some of y'all probably looked at this and were like, that looks like a hurricane. What the heck is that? Well, no, this is actually the outline of Greece, and the higher the elevation, the more dark red it is, right? So all this red right here, that's all mountainous area of Greece, right? So as we can tell, Greece is very mountainous, right? It's divided many of the early settlements, causing each city-state to be very unique. Oh God, there's something you gotta write down. All right, hold on. Where's my board? All right, here we go. All right, you need this word desperately. Don't forget it. It's extremely important. Where did my thing go? Not that. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's go white. Let's go a little bit bigger. All right, here we go. Geographic. Isolationism. All right, this right here is one of the most important history words that you're ever going to learn. See that word, right? Write that underneath this area where it says mountainous, right? Because this caused geographic isolationism, all right? What that is basically like this. Let's say hypothetically, here's a little Greek city-state, right? And then there are mountains right here. And then there's a large river right there. And then there's like a strait or a chasm or a plateau or something right here, right? As you can tell, this place is cut off, right? So it can't actually get out. It can't spread its culture effectively, right? But then in Greece, the crazy thing that happened was on the other side of these mountain ranges, there were other little independent communities, right? There was like the city-state of Corinth, and then there was like the city-state of Sparta, and then the Athens. Now, this is not geographically accurate in the least, all right? We'll talk about where Peloponnese is and how Sparta was actually on the mainland. We'll get there. Now, anyway, but as you can see, these guys, and these guys, they can't communicate with one another because they don't have any ability to get over these mountain ranges or through this chasm or over this river, right? So they are geographically isolated, right? Causing each of them to be very unique from one another, right? So kind of think about it this way. You want to think about it this way? Think about geographic isolationism as Mr. Bethurn, Mr. Wooderson, and I, right? Very different personalities, very, like, just because we look the similar, like, in a way, right? Tall, young guys, right? So doesn't mean we're actually very alike, right? Like I'm over here being a weirdo, Mr. Bethurn's over here doing his thing, being awesome, and then Mr. Wooderson's over here being lame. All right, so good stuff. You got it? All right, and I expect Jenna Gomez, one of you that actually knows Mr. Wooderson pretty tight, to go ahead and run up to him as fast as you can and be like, Mr. Cherry called you lame. All right, so now anyway, check this out though. I don't mean that, Mr. Wooderson, you're awesome. Now, anyway, So geographic isolation is a major factor, right? It leads to a very unique Greek culture that no one saw coming, okay? So also, though, they have the Aegean Sea on their eastern side. The Ionic Sea is on the other one, but we're not there yet, all right? So Greece is bordered by this sea, and it has a ton of really good natural harbors, right? So, and this large Aegean Sea has tons and tons of islands that offer great contact with other civilizations in terms of trade and sometimes in terms of war, right? Now, what we're getting into, though, first, we got to talk about like the original settlers, right? So people showed up in Greece, right? So as you can tell, eventually the mountainous territory was overcame, and then they started trading with other people and stuff like that, but it did lead to a lot of uniqueness between each city-state. Now, here's the crazy part, though. Climate, average temperature in the Mediterranean area, particularly in Greece, is about 75 degrees, right? Hot, temperate summers, very cool winters, right? Very rainy as well. This leads to like really terrible farmland. Only 20% of Greece's farmland is actually farmable, right? So like actually very, very good. They actually have Mediterranean scrub lands is what they're called, all right? So they're actually like these little tiny shrubs and things like that, little bushes and things like that grow heavy on the sand and the soil that's very, very hard to farm. So early Greeks are going to rely heavily on trade. And luckily enough for them, there were tons and tons of other places that already had already established collective agriculture for them to trade with, right? A lot of these Fertile Crescent crops are going to end up in Greece, and then they're going to figure out ways to farm them on higher lands, by terracing mountains, and things like that, right? So how is time divided, though? We already talked about this. We know that there are 8 Greek time periods, 8 of them, right? Nathan eats bacon, meanwhile mommy dances around Charlie's house, right? So that's our way of remembering it, but it's the Neolithic era, the early Bronze, the Minoan, the Mycenaean, the Dark Age, the Archaic, the Classical, the Hellenistic. But let's start off with the easy one, right? Let's go Neolithic. Now, we started talking about all this stuff when we first introduced the course, right? We started talking about Paleolithic people, Neolithic people, right? Going from hunter-gatherer societies and elevating yourself to collective agricultural ideals, right? So, big thing is, Neolithic, you don't need to know a ton about it. The Neolithic era, you already know by just listening to the name. Basically means they had very, very simple artifacts, shows early settlements, farming, pottery, etc., right? So, very, very, very simple stuff. From about 6,000 to 2,900 BC. Now remember, for Mr. Terry, you should write that date down, but I'm never going to expect you to know that stuff off the top of your head, right? But the Neolithic era is just simple. It's just a little, like some people starting some small settlements. And then you get into the early Bronze Age, right? Now the early Bronze Age is a very, very crucial moment, right? Very crucial moment. From about 2,900 to 2000 BC, it is defined by the introduction of metal bronze, right? So you understand what bronze is, okay? Bronze is an alloy. It's made up of 2 different types of metal, right? You actually take copper and tin and mix these 2 components together, and it creates bronze, right? Now, bronze statues you've seen before. Bronze statues are usually large, kind of brownish, dark brown like statues. They have a very funky smell to them. It's mainly because of the oxidation of the copper that's actually inside of it, right? So, like, for example, you ever have an old copper penny, it starts to oxidize, turn a little bit of a different color, starts to smell, right? That also happens to bronze statues. They can sometimes turn green and things like that. Very, very famous bronze statues are like ones that was located in Philadelphia. This is one of the most famous bronze statues. To give you an idea of what bronze is, The Thinker by Rodin. All right, so there we go. All right, this is actually at the original is not at the Rodin Museum, but this is what I mean when I say bronze, right? Bronze is a metal that is actually created by these primitive societies during this early Bronze Age, but it's really, really important because it started to be able to be used to create weapons, pots, armors. It is a giant leap forward when it comes to the technological boost of ancient civilizations, right? So the early Bronze Age is important. It's the introduction of bronze, right? Now we're getting into the first large settlements in ancient Greece, right? There are 2 of them, right? The 3rd and 4th time periods in the ancient Greek periods are the Minoan and the Mycenaean period, right? So, to give you a heads up, the Minoans came first, all right? And we are going to talk about them more tomorrow, right? This is mainly just an introduction, right? But you do need to know this really quick. They were established, jot this down, but Minoans, big capital letters, right? Like, so you can know exactly who these people are. The Minoans are the first Greeks, but we actually study them as separate people than just Greek due to the fact that they're kind of the earliest phases of these people, right? Now, they are established on the Isle of Crete, all right? See this right here? Crete, all right? That is where they started. So put established on the Isle of Crete. And the crazy thing about the Minoan period is actually from about 2000 BC to about 1500 BC, we don't know a ton about them. We only actually know a small amount about this great civilization. However, artifacts and art give a great glimpse into the lives that they led and actually how technology forward they kind of were by comparison to thousands of years that followed them, right? So we're going to talk about them more tomorrow in class, okay? Going to try and take a little bit of an in-depth look at some of them. We'll look at some really awesome pictures, talk about a story that's actually directly related to them, different things like that. But I'll see you guys later. Have a great evening. Make sure you get all this stuff down. I know it was kind of a lot, but it's all good. Y'all have a good one. See you guys tomorrow.